Thanks very much for that, Alex and Alan. That was a very interesting session around iLogic there. Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Matthew Pallant, one of the sales managers here at Man & Machine. We have a very exciting session for you today in store around showcasing the extra functionality and benefits by upgrading to Vault Professional from basic and workgroup versions. We'll also show how that might look when linking Vault to Autodesk's other PLM products, and as well as other tools, our own in-house tools such as PDM Booster. So stay tuned and enjoy the session. It's over to Adrian now for the demo.
Hi, my name is Adrian Patterson. I'm an application engineer here at Man & Machine, and today I'm going to be taking you through the journey of Vault and going from basic through to pro. Now, the main reason that we wanted to go through this today is to encourage those of you who have found yourselves looking at upgrading from Vault Pro, Vault Basic to Vault Pro, or have been forced off of Workgroup by that being essentially discontinued. So, in a second I'm going to dive in and show you the screen, and we're going to get going with Vault. Right, so looking at this here, your interface that you've got in terms of your Vault does not change no matter which version you have. Okay, so the interface, even if you're on Vault Basic, is identical to that you would have had on Vault Pro. Now, that is with some caveats here. We've got additional properties which are on the right-hand side of the screen over here, which those of you who are on Vault Basic have probably never seen before. Now, these allow you to interact with your properties directly. You will also notice that we also have states and revisions in here. And that is because Vault Workgroup, now retired, and Vault Pro allowed us to do revision control as well as version control. Okay, so that allows us to move on to some of the other features that we've got here. So, using the life cycles, we can control the state of our files and who has access to them. So Vault Pro adds the ability to add categories, it adds states and revision schemes in here. So when we're talking brought into the Vault with the assistance of something called rules. And rules take that data, scan through it, and pick up either properties or information about those files and determine which category that needs to be on. Those categories would then sort those files into what state and revision schemes are necessary for them. Now, these are all fairly standard features that we get within Vault Pro and not the focus of what I'm looking at today. Those of you who are already on Workgroup, you will have seen this before because these features were available in Workgroup as well. So, the next thing that we're going to talk about is some of the additional functionalities that you would get moving from Workgroup to Pro. So if I go and start with our change order list down the bottom, you can see that I have a number of change orders that are inside of the Vault. Now, some of them have some different schemes, which I'll be getting to later. Please look later when I'm talking about Fusion Manage. But you'll notice that I've got one there, ECO, and it's 000004, whatever that is. I can't remember if that's the right number of zeros, but we'll figure it out. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create an ECO from a particular item. So I'm just going to go and find us an example that we can go and work with. So let's say, for example, we have this part. It's an incredibly boring part. Let's see if we can find something more interesting than that. Okay, let's use this assembly. We wish to make an engineering change order for this particular assembly inside of Vault Pro. Now, this might occur for various different reasons. Let's say, for example, someone has raised an issue and said that there's a problem with this part. Now, you're looking for a trackable, traceable, historical, accessible way of tracing these ECOs. Vault has an ECO function built in. Now, not everyone likes to use it. Some people find it a bit rigid. Some people don't necessarily like the configuration options that they have with it. But for those who are looking for an ECO process, this is a good way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go and add to a change order and say new here. Okay, so jumping into a change order as we've got on the screen over there, you can see that it's generating a change order number. Now this could be configured based on any numbering schemes that you've got inside of Vault. Another feature that you've got access to as part of Pro is the ability to create these numbering schemes. So these don't just get used here, but get used in file naming, in folder naming. They get used in items as well. More on items when we get there. So we can go ahead and use that. We can go and give this change order a title. Let's go and say incorrect material. We can go and give ourselves a nice, incredibly detailed blurb about what kind of material problems we've got with this particular one. Give ourselves a due date. If there were any properties in here, we would be able to go and add properties to that. Now I'm going to go ahead and click, going to go to my files here. You can see that in files, it has added this particular item in here. Okay, so this has added that file and gives a tangible link between our ECO and that file that we're trying to revise, allowing the people involved in this ECO to make the changes necessary during this change process. I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. Right, so with that being done, in the Records tab, you would see any related files to this particular one, and you can see that we can add files from our vault as well, so this would allow us to go and search for various different files that might be related to this and add them. We could go and trace any comments that we wanted here, so we could go and add a comment, which we could go and give a title. Let's just go and say comment here, and once again, let's give another incredibly detailed comment. I think you might see a theme here with regards to me doing Vault demos and incredible detail. And that adds that comment into this. So you can see that you've got a record which essentially builds of all of this information. Now, in the Files tab, it would allow us to go and see this particular file that we are doing the change order for, or any related files that might also be part of this, because you can go and add other items here. So you could have 4 or 5 different designs that are affected by a single change order. Okay. Now, we also have a routing tab. Now, the routing tab kind of breaks down who's responsible for what. So you'll see on that particular one, bear in mind, this is my vault. I'm working on my machine. The administrator is the only login I've got. So I'm playing all of these roles. So change requester, change administrator, reviewer, approver. These are various different roles that indicate what you can and can't do with this change order. It will assign to you, if you are added to this particular thing as one of those users, a function for you to perform as part of this change order. So if you are the responsible engineer, you are the person who is meant to be doing the changes to this design. Okay. If you are the reviewer, you are meant to be reviewing that design. If you are the change administrator, you are making sure that this change process goes as it needs to, initiating the change order and making sure that it finishes completely. Okay, so I'm going to move over one more tab. You can see that we have our status tab, and here we have the one caveat I'm going to put in place and why some companies choose not to use change orders in here, but might prefer to look at it inside of something like Fusion Manager. This is the life cycle that we have access to as part of our ECOs. Now, these ECOs and this particular life cycle is not really editable. We can add a second review state, but that is the only change to this life cycle that we can make, at least in stock Vault and with all intents and purposes at this point in time. Okay, so if we go ahead and move this on, you can see that up at the top we have some buttons here, and I can go and move this. Oh, sorry, I need to save this. I can move this ECO in this life cycle by using the buttons up at the top, adding more detail again, and clicking OK. And inside of that ECO, which has closed for some reason, we just need to go and find it again. It will have moved to a different status. So it is now in the open status, and you will see in my work list, because I am the person responsible for doing the next stage of this ECO, it is in my work list. This is another way that people can track what work needs to be done inside of a company. So it allows you to work off of this work list, assigning those items, or sorry, no, assigning those ECOs to the relevant people that need to work on it at any point in time. Okay. So this is ECOs. I'm not going to dive too much further in it, but we could go all the way to closed at this point in time, performing these various different functions. The person who is responsible for doing the changes would do it in work. Okay. The review happens, etc. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here, so let's go ahead and close this particular example, and we're going to move on to our next example that we've got, and that is items. Now, my vault is filled with a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to call it stuff, and you can insert whatever word that you think is appropriate here instead of stuff. But this stuff in my vault is all test, and you can see that it is because I've been working with Fusion Manage, and I've been synchronizing stuff back and forwards. So some of it will make sense, others will not. Now, what an item is, just going to open up an existing one, is, let's call it a very fancy envelope. it contains a whole bunch of information for various different files and allows you to group that information in one place. So if you've got a top-level design for a product, for example, you might create an item which would then give you the ability to look at the bill of materials for that item, to control the bill of materials and add virtual items or kind of non-modeled items into your bill of materials as well. So it allows bill of material management through items. It gives us a history of that particular item, so we could go and see the full history of that particular top-level product if we were using it in that configuration. If it was part of any change orders, it would show up here, for example. Now, if we look at the where used functionality that we've got over there, you can see that we've got the parent-child relationships that we are looking for essentially in this tab over here. Just going to the bill of materials one, and you can see example. That's what I was talking about a second ago. Now we're going to be creating our own in a second, so bear with me. Let's go ahead and start that now. I'm going to go to my Project Explorer, and let's go and find a file that we don't have items for. And here is a good example right now. So I have this coffee table GA that I've gone and built at various different points for various different examples. And let's go ahead and assign or update an item. Now what this will do is it's going to assign an item to the top level file. Okay, now I might have done this at this point. You can do this for various different reasons at various different levels in the Vault. But the point behind it is however you're going to be using items, you are going to be using items. It's not strictly one way or the other. Okay, so inside of here, you can see that we have, it's added our associated files, our coffee table GA to that, which allows us to kind of track the various different parts and things that are inside of that item. And if we had any documents, we would be able to go and add these documents in there as well. So if we went to associated files, we should be able to go, oh, I need to save it first, my apologies. Save this particular item. There should be a way to add this. There we go, come on. Attachments for this, and let's go and add this attachment for this out of my designs folder. In here I have a lovely document that I can go and use there. And that will add this particular document to this. So looking at the history, looking at our associated files, you can see that that file has now been added. So when I said it was a fancy envelope, it now contains our design, now contains our documentation. It might contain your fire safety information, it might contain your spares lists, it could contain anything that you'd wanted to. Now, where a lot of companies tend to go when using items is its synchronization to other third-party bits of software. So if you were looking at an ERP integration into your Vault, it would be your items most likely, which would be synchronizing to the ERP. Now there's other ways to do it in terms of files and exports and outputs, but if you were doing it backwards and forwards, capable ERP integration, it would be the items that are being synchronized. Okay. Right, let's have a look at some of the other tabs that we've got here. So I mentioned bill of materials. Let's go to the bill of materials that we've got here. Inside of there, you can see that my coffee table GA is made up of some parts that I've got over here. Some of these have parent-child relationships, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn them on. So you can see that by clicking this light bulb, it's going to turn on that item. It's going to then create an item for each of these. If that light bulb is not on, it will reference it as part of the bill of material, but it won't be in it won't be created as an item on its own. You can see I have some others here. We'll leave these not created as items for now. Okay, so if I go to my where used, you can see that if I had any drawings, it would show me any drawings or any other items that might be using this particular item, showing us any parent relationships that we see there. Remember, our child relationships are being shown in our bill of materials, so there's no need to kind of have a what's contained in there in another tab. And if we had a change order for this particular item, and yes, it is possible to create a change order for items and not only files, you could have that information showed here. Now, if I go to the View tab and I click on my coffee table GA, it's going to show us our lovely Vault preview that we've now got over here. And this visualization file is going to show us a preview of this example where it can be viewed in 3D. So if I opened the item, I could then go and see it in 3D. As well as the associated files that we kind of touched on earlier, you would also have access to a datasheet. Now that datasheet has various different properties and information that's available in there, and allow us to go and put in that information as needed. Now, this is where I'm going to stop on items. We're going to pick up with items again when I touch Fusion Manager, so bear with me on that one. Let's move on to our next topic that I wish to show you. Yes, I want to save my changes. There we go. Right, next one I want to show you is data standards. So data standards is a add-on developed by Autodesk which gets installed on top of your Vault client. Now, it installs onto your Inventor as well, and you will notice it over here. You can tell whether Vault is using data standards because of the buttons that are up here. So you see it says new standard file or edit file data sheet. Those are data standards buttons. It replaces the new button that you would have inside of all other variants of Vault without data standards. Okay, now data standards is only available for professional, so those of you who are on Vault Basic, it is not possible. You would need to be running professional in order to get this. And if I go ahead and I click on New Standard File, what you'll notice is it allows me to go and create placeholder files with property information filled out. Okay, now this red box over there, the file name, tells me that it is a required bit of information in order for me to go and use this particular or create this file. It will not allow me to proceed until those red boxes are actually completed. Now, it is possible for us to customize our properties to be highlighted as well. So let's say, for example, you had a stock number which links to an ERP system, and that has to be filled in for every single design that gets created. You could make it a mandatory property so that they would have to go and fill out this information before they'd be able to create the file. This isn't only in Vault. I'm going to show you in a second that this happens in Inventor as well. So those properties would have to be filled out in order to get there. So I would be able to choose what kind of category I'd like this file to be on, what kind of document type this is. You can see I've got Inventor, AutoCAD, Drawings, or Office document. Not going to go through too much in terms of creating files here. And it's going to put the path in the same folder that I've created. So I'm just going to go to Inventor now. And let's say, for example, I was working on a blank part over here. Okay, and I wish to save this part now. If I go to my Vault tab and I have a look here, you'll see that I have a new tab for loading and unloading data standards. This is so that if the data standards is causing a problem, it could be turned off. So if I go ahead and I save this now, you can see that my save window has changed inside of Inventor. And that is because of data standards. So I choose the folder in the Vault where I'd like to go, not by saving it to my working folder and then checking it in. I'm actually choosing the location where it's going to be saved through what we call breadcrumbs up at the top. So at the top you can see it's listing all of the folders that I've gotten here, so I can go to MFG Summit, for example. I can go into my sheet metal step and DXF folder that I've gotten there, and for every subsequent folder it's just going to keep kind of going along, leading you along like breadcrumbs, hence the name. So we can now go ahead and choose our file name. It's already automatically given us this name, so nothing is red here or mandatory there. But if I wanted to, I could use my numbering schemes over there to choose how this file is going to be saved. And these numbering schemes could be configured. Remember what I mentioned earlier when it came to ECOs and item numbers. These are configurable. And we can go and fill out any of the properties that we'd like inside of here. So these are customizable as well. So the properties that the users would see could be changed in order to make sure that the data put into the Vault is consistent. That is exactly why this add-in exists. It is there to make sure that everyone is filling in the required information in the Vault. Now, I've seen this added to many companies. There is a stock configuration which comes out of the box. So if you install data standards today, this is what you would see. Mine is not changed right now. This could also be customized. Now, this is a service that we can do for you. It requires us coding essentially your data standards to what you need. We've done things like adding fields in before. We've created a drop-down list. I went as far in one Vault as choosing the file naming scheme based on the folder location in the Vault for a company that had 4 separate sub-companies inside of one company. So that kind of thing is completely possible because it's coding and custom developed. It is bespoke to what you need. So your requirements can be taken into account. Okay. So that is data standards in a nutshell. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I don't want to put you all to sleep. I'm well aware I'm talking about data management and it's not everyone's cup of tea. Right, so the next one I'm going to go ahead and show you is called the Thin Client. So if we go in here and I go to my Thin Client over here, this is available in Vault Pro. The Thin Client installs on your Vault server and allows users read access to the Vault without the need to buy a license. Okay. This is incredibly powerful in today's modern manufacturing environment. Okay? How many times have you guys been to a shop floor and seen the drawings handed there? There might be old revisions of those drawings. In a recent case that I came across, there were unscrupulous draftsmen who were swapping drawings on the shop floor. Okay? This single source of truth access to the Vault means that everyone is working on the latest version that's in the Vault, with or without a Vault license. So, if a draftsman wants to go ahead and have a look at a file, they can jump onto the thin client, have a look at that particular file, and see, oh, latest version's here, here's the person who checked it in, here's when it was last changed, this is this revision, what are we building? They can go as far as viewing it in 3D. Let me give you a bit of a demonstration. So, you can see that I've got access to the three main parts of my Vault that I might be interested in. You can see I've got files, items, and change orders. So yes, change orders do come through here. Of course I'm going to be logged out at this point in time. Welcome to live demos, ladies and gentlemen. This always happens. So, just signing back in. Bear with me. This would be a good time for it to stop working. Lovely. I'm not 100% sure what's happened here, but for some reason it is not happy. There we go. So we can now go to designs, and let's go to my ARM system. Again, we were dealing with that as an example, and I'm going to go and have a look at this particular assembly. Right, so this particular assembly is a sub-assembly inside of the main one, and you can see it's showing us all of the information that's in there, all of the various different properties that's in there. User-defined properties are shown up here. We can see the history of this file if we'd like to, so we can see who's checked it in, who's moved it, what lifecycle state it's on. We can see all of the users for this file in terms of what it uses. So this gives us the children information from there, and the where used gives us the parent information from there. So you can see I've got sub-assemblies within sub-assemblies within sub-assemblies on this particular example. Okay, if there were items created for this, it would show us those particular items and allow us to click on this to open those items inside of the thin client too. Same thing with change orders. I have a change order for this particular part. It's called incorrect material. There it is. And I can go ahead and click on it and it'll open up that change order. Let me give you a demonstration of that. There's the change order, there's the records that's attached to it, there's the attachments. I can't see the life cycle of this change order, and that is because you require either a Vault Office or a Vault Pro license to interact with change orders in that way. So this isn't going to be a one-stop solution for everyone who wants to get change orders down to the shop floor. You're still going to need to buy some licenses to do that. But it gives basic users the access that they need in terms of read access. So just going back here, we can go back to our files there. And let's get back to that. Apologies, I should maybe not have gone quite as far as I did. And let's go to the View tab. So the View tab allows someone to go ahead, and if this was a drawing, by the way, they would be viewing the drawing, but because this is an assembly, they are seeing the files again in 3D. With Autodesk's lovely Forge platform to go ahead and view this and go as far as being able to see sections through this design, being able to measure. So if I pulled up a quick measure tool, I will be able to go ahead and measure on this face over there. Right, so there we go. We can tell that that is exactly 80 millimeters from that side to that side. And bear in mind, this is all done completely without a license. This is an incredibly powerful tool. Even if you are running Vault Pro and you don't have this installed, get it installed. Because even if it's not the shop floor you want it for, it might be salespeople doing views, it might be people in production who are trying to look at bill of materials and need access to items. That kind of thing is incredibly powerful when it comes to using this thin client to do that. Right. So, the next thing that I'm going to talk to you about is Job Processor. So, the Job Processor, I'm not going to pull up on this screen for fear of breaking something that I've got, because I'll get to that in a second. I've got a Job Processor here. Now, what the Job Processor is it allows us to automate tasks within the Vault. Now, there are certain functions and features which it's possible to use with a Job Processor inside of the Vault by default. These are usually used to update properties, create PDFs of drawings and things while it's moving in a life cycle. So imagine that. You put a file to released, and suddenly you have a PDF of that drawing. That's that kind of thing that the Job Processor gets used for. So that comes with Vault Pro. It needs to be set up on its own machine, ideally. It is possible to do it on a user's machine, but bear in mind that the Job Processor and the user would then essentially be sharing the resources of that machine. So most companies, when they're serious about Job Processor work, tend to buy an additional license of Vault Pro. This is necessary so that they can put that on that secondary machine. Running Windows 10, don't make the mistake that I've done of putting it on server. It just creates chaos. And allows you to run those jobs in the background. Right, so on top of that, we have third-party plugins, and I'm going to show you one. Well, I'm not going to show you the plugin, but I'm going to show you the functionality that it's got. So the plugin is incredibly boring and just processes it in the background, so ignore that for now. But what would happen with this, and there are third-party, this is PDM Booster, and previously we've used products such as Cool Orange. So these job processes, these additional job processes, allow us to create and script custom jobs specifically for running specific features in your Vault. So let's say, for example, I have a whole bunch of sheet metal files. Okay, I'm just going to this folder here, and you can see exactly what it's going to output by the top example there. I have this sheet metal part 1, and it's got an output sheet metal part 1 and appended the revision onto the end of that file. So it has exported a DXF and a step file of my sheet metal part, and that is done through a lifecycle change. So if I go to this particular sheet metal part here, and I go ahead and I change the state of it, I'm going to change it from work in progress to internal CAD review, and by doing that, I will have triggered a job in the background. So if I go to the job queue, you can see that it is processing my particular job in the background. Those of you who are particularly eagle-eyed among you might notice that there's some other interesting jobs above us, which we're going to get to when we get to Fusion Manage. So this is essentially going to process this in the background. See, it's already done. And here's where we find out whether my job failed or not. It did not, which is great. So it has gone and taken that particular part and exported it as a DXF and a step file. So it's possible to use a whole range of different formats. It's possible to change the naming however you'd like it. It's possible to export these to various different locations. These are custom jobs written specifically to your requirements. This is why these tools tend to get used. I have used this before in terms of 4-eyes processes before Autodesk introduced that with 2024. We've created various different exports. We've moved files from one location to another. We've had ERP systems picking up PDFs put in a particular folder and then adding them to the ERP system through that kind of export. These are all the kind of jobs that are possible to go for custom jobs and scripting. So that the last thing on my list. I was surprised by how quickly I've gone through my own list. We're going to talk about the addition of Fusion Manage. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Fusion Manage, I'm just going to go ahead and take you to the beginning right here. Fusion Manage is a product from Autodesk which is a PLM solution. So it is a cloud-hosted PLM solution. You don't require any servers to go and install this. You don't require, heavy outset of costs in terms of those servers and trying to get them there. You buy the licenses for it and it gets installed on the cloud. Okay, so you have access to something called a tenant. Now your tenant is your environment where your information gets stored. So there are no Autodesk tools which link your Vault to Fusion Manage, but with the use of these custom jobs and scripting, so I'm talking about PDM Booster at this point in time, we can then link our Fusion Manage to our Vault. So this allows us to go and take our Vault items, for example, and push them to Fusion Manage. It also allows us to go and take our change orders out of Fusion Manage and push them into Vault and do hybrid workflows in terms of that. So the possibilities inside of Fusion Manage, there are a lot of different workspaces. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what is possible here. So you can see this particular one is configured for product portfolio management. So you can manage all of your products in a life cycle, see when they were introduced, when they're going to be retired, when spares end of life comes into play. We can have new product introduction processes if we wanted to, which allow us to go through how those products are being introduced, who's the stakeholders involved, making sure that the right people have the right information where. These items inside of Fusion Manage can be, and these environments which contain these items, can be completely customized to whatever it is that you need. So if you're looking for a way to track quality issues, supply chain issues, suppliers, change management, it's all possible in here, and it's possible to go and create custom environments to do exactly what it is that you'd like. In fact, I've even got an implementation tracker down the bottom, but that's one out of the box from Autodesk. Okay, so inside of here, we're going to go ahead and go to our product portfolio management. Ooh, wrong one. We're going to go to our product development and Vault items and bombs. And in here, you can see all of my items which have come directly from Vault. So when an item has reached a particular state in its life cycle inside of Vault, it has been published to Fusion. Okay, Sorry, Fusion 360 Manage. I shouldn't just say Fusion. There are too many Fusion products to just call it one word anymore. So let's go ahead and click on one of them. Let's see if we can find ourselves a slightly interesting one to look at, because these just all look boring. Oh, that's not an interesting one, but it's the best I've got for now, so let's go and have a look at it. So if I click on this base file here, you can see it's going to give me the Vault item details. Now again, this can be customized to put properties where you'd like them, show the information that you want where you'd want it, and it's going to show me any attachments that I've got for this particular one. And notice it has uploaded the DWF file, which means I now have visualization for this file inside of my Fusion Manage. So anyone on Fusion Manage can go and view this file in 3D inside of Fusion Manage. Exactly the same tool we were looking at with the thin client. And in fact, if I go to the Vault item details, you'll notice open in Vault. It has the link to open directly in Vault or to open in the thin client. And if I click on that, it's going to take me directly to my thin client, showing me exactly that item in it, which is more common than just going directly to the Vault client. All right, so you can see if we had any bill of materials. I don't have any assemblies here. Where's my ARM system? There's ARM system. Okay. If I go to bill of materials for the ARM system, you can see that I have a full parent and child relationship available for us. So any items that making up this particular part, we can see and track and kind of keep track of in here. Sorry, track I already said, but you understand what I mean. Parts list details, if we wanted to, it's going to give us a full parts list. Now this is the parents direct, the children directly, so you can see these are the sub-assemblies that we're talking about here. We can see any associated change orders or anything like that, and you can see there has actually been a change order created for this particular one in there. So what I could do is, let's go to our Vault, let's go and find one of these parts. So this particular one, this sheet metal part 2, doesn't yet have an item, so let's go and create one. Actually, we created a whole bunch of items with this one, so let's go and move that. Coffee table GA, I'm going to say go to item, and it's going to take me to the item. Okay, and in here I can then go and change the state, and in here I have the ability to go upload it to Fusion Manage. If I go and click on that, it's going to process this in the background. Now it might take a little bit of time for that bill of material information to be processed, but because I've changed the state of this file, it is then going to synchronize its way up into Fusion Manage. Now I'm hoping we're going to have enough time to show you that it is here, but we will find out, because it is entirely possible that my job processor won't quite process it quick enough. When you are dealing with job processors, you have a latency to deal with. Okay, now this is often configured to be very short. In this case, it's looking for a job every 6 seconds. But if yours is the default job processor that's installed and you haven't modified that setting, which requires a little bit of jiggery-pokery inside of some files, it's probably 10 minutes. So you can imagine it's only looking for a job every 10 minutes. This is trying to keep down system processor usage so that when it is installed on a client's machine who's trying to run CAD at the same time, it's not hogging all of the resources while he's trying to do his job. These are the kind of things that we trade off all the time, and why I recommend buying licenses for job processors. Let's see, hopefully, what was the name of that part again, because I have managed to forget the name. This is useful. Coffee table GA. So if I go back in here, we should hopefully be able to go and find it. If it is not here, I will have to apologize, but it should be in here. Coffee table frame assembly has come in. Interesting. That's fine. We can start that and let's see. So this is one of the files that was part of that particular bill of material that came through. Remember, there were multiple different items that were part of that one, and it has now come through with this one. So this is just one example of what we've uploaded right now. And if I went to go ahead and... Ooh. Let's go and have a look here. There we go. Have a look on that. It would then allow us to go ahead and look at this DWF in Fusion Manage, allowing us to see this file in 3D. And there is my lovely coffee table frame. Rob will probably recognize it. I sent it to him yesterday as another demo. But 100%. There we go. Right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this has at least been entertaining.
Well, thanks for that very comprehensive demonstration there, Adrian. It was very interesting. I particularly liked the thin client feature, which has been quite powerful for some of our customers, I'd imagine, giving read-only access to to the wider range of people within the business, and especially people on the shop floor. I also like the PDM booster. Sounds very exciting as well. to kind of automate some of those tedious tasks that you're currently going through within Vault. And also the Fusion PLM side of it as well. I think that's, you know, we are sort of dipping our toe in the water with that at the moment, but a lot of our customers are starting to drum up a lot of interest in that. So obviously, if you guys are interested in talking to us about anything that Adrian's discussed today, please contact us directly and I'll be happy to set up a meeting where we can discuss your requirements in further detail. So that's enough from us for this session. We're going to pass over to the next session, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual summit. Thank you.